They said I survived an armed robbery, but what if the real killer slept beside me? I heard her voice while trapped in a coma, whispering, "He's still alive. You haven't completed your mission yet." When I woke up, I couldn't scream. I could only watch her pretend to love me, but the truth was already awake inside me. Watch till the end to see how love became the deadliest weapon. I remember that night as clearly as the scar that now divides my chest. Every time I run my fingers along that rough, raised line of flesh, it all comes rushing back. The rain, the fear, the betrayal I didn't yet see coming. The day had started like any other. A board meeting that stretched too long, laughter with the younger associates who still thought life could be planned with spreadsheets and ambition. I stayed late to review a contract, the kind of deal that could change everything for my firm. When I finally left the office, the city was already slick with rain. The street lights bled gold on wet asphalt, and thunder grumbled somewhere beyond the lagoon. My phone buzzed as I stepped into my SUV. Ada. She almost never called twice in a row. "Obina, when are you coming home?" she asked, her voice soft but urgent. "It's late." "I'm on my way," I said, smiling as I started the engine. "Why? You miss me already?" There was a small laugh on the other end, short, nervous. "You know I always do. Just be careful, okay?" I brushed it off as worry. That was Ada. Tender, emotional, the kind of woman who prayed before every journey, who couldn't sleep if she thought I was still on the road. But now, when I replay that conversation, there's something in her tone that chills me, something hidden beneath the affection, like a tremor behind the calm. The rain thickened as I crossed Third Mainland Bridge, wipers dragging back and forth like a heartbeat. The city was quiet, too quiet for a Friday night. The usual chaos, horns, street hawkers, loud laughter from beer parlors, seemed swallowed by the storm. Lagos was holding its breath. Another call came in as I turned into Ikoyi. Ada again. "Drive safe, my love," she said softly. "I'll be waiting." Those words should have comforted me. They did, for about 2 minutes. Then the headlights appeared in my rearview mirror. 2 motorcycles, their beams cutting through the downpour, following too close. I slowed down, expecting them to pass. They didn't. Instead, they drew nearer, engines growling, shadows closing in. A strange heaviness settled in my gut. Something primal whispered, "Don't stop." I gripped the steering wheel tighter. My mind raced. Maybe they were just delivery riders. Maybe they couldn't see clearly in the rain. I told myself not to panic. I told myself everything was fine. Then I saw the glint of metal. Before I could even react, the first gunshot ripped through the windshield, a flash of light. The sound like a thunderclap inside my skull. Then another. The glass shattered, spraying across my face and arms like sharp rain. I ducked instinctively, my car jerking sideways. My ears rang with deafening pain. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. My only instinct was survival. I hit the accelerator. Too late. The tires lost grip on the slick road, and the car spun, fishtailing before slamming into the concrete edge of a drainage gutter. The impact threw me forward. My chest hit the steering wheel so hard I saw stars. Then silence. Not the gentle kind, but the suffocating type that swallows the world whole. Smoke curled from the hood. The dashboard lights blinked weakly. Somewhere far off, thunder rolled again like applause for death. My breathing was ragged. Something warm and sticky crept down my arm. Blood. I could taste it in my mouth, metallic and bitter. For a moment I thought of Ada, her smile, her scent, the way she used to wait by the gate whenever I came home late. I thought of my sons, their laughter echoing through the house, and I remember whispering, God, not like this. Please, not here. But then I heard them. Footsteps. Slow. Confident. Two shadows approaching through the rain. One of them spoke, voice muffled under a helmet. He's still breathing. The other voice came sharper, colder. Leave, Am. The boss go handle the rest. The boss. That word drilled into my mind even as consciousness slipped away. Who was the boss? What mission? But before I could process it, my vision dimmed. My fingers went numb. The pain in my chest flared like fire, then faded to nothing. The rain turned to whispers. The world folded in on itself, and I was gone. I wish I could tell you it ended there, that the men ran, that I was found and saved right away. But between that moment and what came next, there's a darkness I can't fully describe. I remember flashes, a woman's scream, hands dragging me out of the car, a flashlight beam cutting through the rain, and somewhere in the distance, the sound of sirens. Then, nothing. When I opened my eyes again, I was floating, not in air, not in water, but in something heavier. My body felt pinned down, yet my mind was weightless. I tried to move, but my limbs were bound in invisible chains. I tried to speak, but no sound came out. I thought I was dead, until I heard the machines, the rhythmic beep of a heart monitor. And then I realized I wasn't gone. I was in a hospital. I could hear voices, doctors rushing, nurses murmuring. Someone said, "He's lost too much blood." But his pulse is still strong, still strong. Those words pulled me back like a rope, dragging me from the edge of hell. But before I could fully wake, before my eyes could open, I drifted again, into a silence that wasn't silence, into darkness that had shape and sound, and in that strange floating place between life and death, one voice broke through, a voice I knew too well. "Ada, my husband is still alive," she whispered. "You haven't completed your own mission yet. If we must be together, he really needs to go." Her words echoed like bullets in my skull. At first I thought I was hallucinating. Maybe it was the morphine, maybe a dream, but it wasn't. Her voice was too clear, too deliberate. The tone I had loved for 20 years now chilled me to the bone. She wasn't weeping, she wasn't praying, she was plotting. And at that moment, lying half dead in a hospital bed, unable to move, unable to scream, I felt something inside me break forever. The woman I loved wanted me gone. But that's another act of this story. That night, the night of the gunfire, was the night my old life ended, the night I realized that sometimes the real bullets aren't fired from a gun. They're whispered from the lips of the one you love most. And though I didn't know it then, that was the beginning of everything, the betrayal, the coma, the awakening. But I survived that night, against every odd, against every plan. And the scar across my chest, it's not just a reminder of how close I came to dying. It's proof that even death can miss its mark, especially when fate has unfinished business. They said I was in a coma for 5 days, but I never left. I was there, suspended somewhere between the living and the dead, locked inside my own body, screaming in a voice no one could hear. It wasn't sleep, it wasn't peace, it was a prison. Everything around me existed as sound and sensation. The rhythmic beep of the heart monitor, the hiss of oxygen, the shuffle of rubber soles on tiled floors. Voices, distant, echoing, muffled, like they were coming from underwater. I couldn't open my eyes, couldn't move my fingers, couldn't even swallow, but I could feel, and worse, I could hear. The first day, I was confused. I thought I was dreaming. My mind kept drifting between memories and fragments of the accident, the rain, the crash, the blood. Then voices started to take shape. A nurse saying, "He's stable for now." Another asking, "You think he'll make it?" A man's voice, my doctor, I later learned, replying softly, "It's a miracle he's breathing at all." Miracle. I wanted to laugh, to tell them that God doesn't waste miracles, that I'd wake up soon. But all that came out was silence. Time blurred in that place. Day and night meant nothing. I measured existence by the rhythm of that machine beside me. Beep, beep, beep. Each sound a reminder that I was still tethered to life, even as everything else slipped away. And then, on what I later learned was the third night, I heard the voice that shattered me. It began with footsteps, soft, deliberate, familiar. Perfume followed, hers, Ada's perfume. Sweet, floral, expensive, the same scent that clung to my shirts after she hugged me. Even in that half-world, I felt her presence like electricity. My heartbeat quickened. My soul reached out to her. "Baby," I wanted to say. "I'm here. I'm still here." But my lips didn't move. My eyelids didn't flicker. I was a ghost inside my own skin. I felt her sit beside me. Her hand touched mine, cold, trembling. For a moment I thought I felt love in that touch. Hope surged through me. Maybe she was praying, maybe she was crying, maybe the sound of her voice would guide me home. Then her phone rang, a vibration first, then a click. She answered in a whisper. "He's still alive," she said. A pause. "You haven't completed your own mission yet. If we must be together, he really needs to go." The words fell like shards of glass. At first, I thought my brain was playing tricks on me. Hallucination, a dream, the medication, something, anything. But the voice was real, calm, deliberate, certain. It was Ada, the same woman who once knelt beside me in church and held my hand through every storm. The same woman who kissed my forehead every morning before I left for work. She was talking about me. I felt something shift inside me, something raw and cold. The warmth I had clung to for 20 years froze instantly. Her voice dropped even lower. "No, not yet. The police are still around. We'll have to wait. He's strong, but he won't make it through another one. I'm sure of it." Another silence, then a sigh. "Yes, I love you too." The sound of that last sentence sliced through my heart like a blade. Love? For who? I tried to move, to shout, to make the machine scream louder, to warn someone. But nothing obeyed me. My mind was awake, but my body was a corpse. I could only listen, helpless, trapped, betrayed. I could feel her fingers on mine still, light and tender. A performance, a ritual. Perhaps she thought I couldn't hear her, but I did. Every word, every breath, every lie. She hung up, and then she spoke aloud, softly, like she was talking to a child. "You'll rest soon, Obinna. You've fought long enough." My heart monitor spiked. I heard the machine quicken. Beep, 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 as though my body itself was trying to expose her. But she only smiled. I could hear it in her tone. "Sleep," she whispered. "It's better this way." After she left, the room grew colder. I felt darkness crawling around me, thick and suffocating. My chest tightened, and I wanted to give up, to let go of the pain, to stop fighting. But another voice broke through. My mother. She came later that same night, her cry trembling like a prayer. "My son, please fight. Don't leave me. Don't let them take you. Them. Did she know? Did she sense something? Mothers always know. Even in silence, she must have felt the danger circling me. She prayed beside my bed, her hands brushing my feet, her tears wetting the sheets. God of justice, if there's wickedness in this, expose it. Bring my son back to life. Those words burned through the darkness like light, and I held on to that light with everything I had left. The next 2 days were war. Inside me, something refused to die. I started hearing more, doctors adjusting machines, nurses whispering updates, even the TV playing in the hallway. Every sound became an anchor pulling me back toward life. But Ada kept coming, always at night, always alone. Each time, I recognized her by the sound of her heels and the soft click of her jewelry. Her visits were shorter now, colder. Sometimes she didn't even speak to me, just stood there, pacing, breathing fast. Once, she muttered, "You should have died already. Why do you make everything so difficult?" That voice, the venom, the impatience, it didn't belong to my wife. It belonged to someone else entirely, someone I didn't recognize. I started to piece things together inside my mind. The men on the motorcycles, the phrase, "the boss go handle the rest," her call, her tone, it was all connected. The accident wasn't random. The robbery wasn't chance. I wasn't just unlucky. I was a target. And Ada, my Ada, was part of it. I remembered the last few months before the shooting, the tension, the sudden distance, the secretive calls she used to step outside to take, the trips she said were for church functions that never added up, the new perfume, the new phone she guarded like her life depended on it. The signs were there, but love blinds you. You build excuses to protect your peace, even as your peace betrays you. Now, in this prison of flesh and silence, the truth screamed louder than any machine. My wife wanted me dead. By the 4th day, something changed. My mind felt sharper. I could feel pain again, faint, distant, but real. That pain became my lifeline. It meant I was still connected to my body. I began to fight. I told my mind to move my fingers. Nothing. I tried again. Then one day, a twitch, a small tremor. The nurse gasped. "Doctor, his hand moved." I felt warmth flood my chest. For the first time, the darkness trembled. That night, Ada came again. She must have heard I was improving. Her voice was low, urgent, trembling with something between fear and anger. "No, he can't wake up. Not now. Do something. I don't care how. Just do it." Another pause. "If he wakes, everything is finished." I wanted to laugh. She was right. If I woke up, everything would be finished. For her. I fought harder. I imagined my children's faces. I remembered my mother's prayers. I thought of the life I built, the people I helped, the empire I created. I refused to let it end like this, silenced by deceit, murdered by love. And so I pushed, through pain, through darkness, through betrayal. Then, on the 5th morning, I heard a nurse shouting, "He's responding! His eyes are moving." Light pierced through my eyelids, blinding at first, then clearer. The world bled back into color. Harsh white walls, gloved hands, blurred faces. My chest rose in ragged gasps as I tore back into the world of the living. I had returned, but even as I blinked against the light, one thought echoed in my mind, clear and cold as a knife. She thinks I'm still gone. That was my advantage. My resurrection wasn't just life, it was opportunity. They said I'd been blessed with a second chance. They were right, but not for the reasons they thought. I came back not just to live, but to listen. to wait, to expose. And in that moment, as the machine steadied and the doctors cheered, I lay there in silence, my eyes open at last, whispering a vow inside my heart. You wanted me gone, Ada, but I heard you, and now I will never forget. They called it a miracle. Doctors, nurses, even the cleaners whispered it as if saying it aloud would break the spell. He's awake, they said. Chief Obinna opened his eyes. But I didn't call it a miracle. I called it vengeance, because when my eyes opened that morning, when the light stabbed into them and my lungs dragged in air again, I wasn't coming back for peace. I was coming back for answers. At first, everything was a blur of white, too bright, too loud. My body felt like a stone, heavy and foreign. The tube down my throat scraped raw every breath I took. My fingers trembled when I tried to move, and then I saw her, Ada. She was sitting beside the bed, head bowed, face buried in her palms. For a fleeting second, I almost felt sorry for her. She looked broken, fragile, her shoulders shaking. Then she looked up. The moment our eyes met, her tears vanished. She gasped, too quickly, too perfectly. "Oh, my God, baby," she cried, clutching my hand. "You're awake. You came back to me." Her voice trembled just enough to sound convincing, but I knew that tremor. I'd heard it before, not from grief, but from fear. I tried to speak, to ask her why, to tell her I heard everything, her whisper in the dark, her betrayal. But the tubes choked me. My words came out as a low, strangled gasp. She pressed her palm against my cheek, smiling. "Don't talk, my love," she whispered. "You need to rest." Rest. The same word she had used when she told her lover I should rest soon. My heart rate spiked again. The monitor beeped faster. The nurse rushed in, checking my vitals. Ada stepped aside, her mask of worry flawless. The perfect wife, the grieving lover, the devoted caretaker. But behind her eyes, I saw something else. Calculation. The next few days were hell. Physically, I was trapped in weakness. Emotionally, I was on fire. I couldn't walk yet, couldn't speak properly. Every time I tried to swallow, pain lanced through my throat. The doctors praised my recovery, said I should thank my wife for staying by my side. If only they knew. She rarely left my room. She brought me food, held my hand, told me stories of people who visited. But I wasn't listening to her words anymore. I was listening to her tone. Every lie disguised as love, every silence between sentences, and her phone, that damn phone. It never left her hand. Every vibration made her flinch. She'd step out of the room for calls, whisper in the hallway, come back smiling like nothing happened. Once, in the middle of the night, I pretended to be asleep. The room was dim, just the faint light from the machines. I heard her whispering again, the same calm voice I remembered from my coma. "No, he's awake now. I don't know how. I'll find out what the doctors are saying. Just wait, Silence." Then her voice again, sharper. I said, "Wait. You're getting impatient. Do you want to ruin everything?" She hung up. My blood ran cold. I knew I couldn't confront her yet. Not until I had proof. If I accused her too early, she'd twist the story, paint herself the victim, call it trauma or paranoia. I knew my wife. She was brilliant at deception, the same brilliance that once made me fall in love with her confidence, her charm. So I played my part. I became the weak husband, the grateful survivor. I smiled faintly when she walked in. I nodded when she fed me. I let her think she was in control. But inside me, something darker was growing, a patient fire. A week later, when I could finally speak again, I made my move. It was early morning. Ada had gone downstairs to buy fruit. I reached for the hospital landline. My fingers shook as I dialed a number I knew by heart. Inspector Uche. He was an old friend, a man I'd helped years ago during his struggling days. We hadn't spoken in a while, but I trusted him. He owed me his loyalty and, more importantly, his silence. He answered on the third ring. "Chief? Jesus Christ, you're alive." "Barely," I croaked. My throat ached with every word. "Uche, listen carefully. I can't talk long." He started to ask questions about the shooting, the robbers, my health. But I cut him off. "I need you to listen," I whispered. "It wasn't a robbery. It was a hit, and my wife is involved." Silence. Then laughter, the kind that wasn't mocking but shocked. "Chief, that's impossible." "Ada, the woman who—" "I heard her, Uche," I said, my voice breaking, "while I was in coma. She didn't know I could hear. She was talking to someone. She said, 'If we must be together, he really needs to go.'" There was another silence. Then his voice dropped, hard and cold. "Who was she talking to?" "I don't know. But she mentioned the mission not being complete. You need to find out who she's been calling, track her number, her messages, something." He sighed. "This will take time. You'll have to act normal." I almost laughed. Act normal. I'd been doing that since I woke up. Before hanging up, Uche said something that burned into my mind. "Obinna, pretend nothing happened. Let her think you're still in her palm. That's when she'll make her mistake." That night, I couldn't sleep. Every breath felt like betrayal. Ada lay on the couch in my hospital room, wrapped in a shawl, pretending to doze. I watched her chest rise and fall, her face soft in the dim light. You wouldn't believe that this woman, the one who once prayed for my success, who shared my pillow for 20 years, had ordered my death. And yet, here she was, sleeping peacefully beside the man she tried to bury. I looked at her and felt something I couldn't name. It wasn't just anger. It wasn't grief. It was disbelief. How does love rot so quietly? How does it die without warning? I thought back to our beginnings, the campus days, the long walks, the promises whispered under starlight. We built everything together, a marriage, children, a business empire. I believed she was my peace. But peace, I've learned, can be the perfect disguise for destruction. 2 days later, Uche visited. He came in plain clothes, posing as a distant cousin. Ada smiled politely when he arrived, then excused herself to make a call outside. When she left, he leaned close. "You were right," he said quietly. "We pulled her phone records. She's been in constant contact with a number linked to one of the gunmen we arrested last year, the same man who escaped during the operation in Ikorodu." My heart stopped. "She's working with him?" "More than that," Uche said grimly. "We traced multiple cash transfers from her account to his. Small amounts, smartly spaced out but consistent." I stared at him, my chest heavy. "Proof. Cold, undeniable proof." "Don't move yet," Uche warned. "If she senses you know, she'll disappear. Let her think you're still weak. We'll set a trap that night." Ada returned with her usual smile, carrying a small bowl of pepper soup. "You need your strength, my love," she said. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I saw through everything. The perfect makeup, the gentle tone, the pity in eyes. It was all theater. I took the spoon she offered, pretending to struggle. I could almost hear Uche's words echoing. "Let her think you're still in her palm." So I swallowed the soup and forced a smile. "Thank you, Ada. You're the reason I'm alive." Her lips curved. "Always, my love." But as she turned away to take a call, her expression shifted, soft to cold, like a mask slipping for just 1 second. That 1 second told me everything I needed to know. Over the next few days, I perfected my act, weak, grateful, compliant. I let her fuss over me, feed me, pray with me. Every word she said, I recorded on a small device Uche had smuggled into my bedside drawer. Every call she made, he traced. She had no idea I was building her coffin one whisper at a time. And yet, sometimes, in the dead of night, I found myself questioning everything. What if I was wrong? What if grief had driven her to desperation? What if love twisted her mind? Then I'd remember her voice on that call. If we must be together, he really needs to go. Number. I wasn't wrong. Love didn't twist her mind. Greed did. On the 10th day, I was strong enough to stand. The doctors celebrated. Ada wept with joy, the performance of a lifetime. I smiled faintly, thanked her for everything. Inside, I was counting down the days. Because the next act, the final act, would no longer be about survival. It would be about justice. And this time, I wouldn't be the one lying helpless in bed. That night, as she fell asleep on the couch, I whispered into the darkness, "You wanted me gone, Ada? But I'm back, and I heard you." Her breathing stayed even, unaware. "Now," I said quietly, "it's your turn to wake up to the truth." 2 weeks after the shooting, the doctors said I was strong enough to go home. But the truth? I was only strong enough to face the lie. My body had mended under their machines and miracles, but my heart was a cracked mirror reflecting everything I never wanted to see. When Ada came to pick me up from the hospital, she looked radiant, too radiant. Her skin glowed like someone reborn, not someone who almost lost a husband. I watched her through the tinted glass of the car window as she adjusted her sunglasses, her diamond wedding ring glinting under the morning sun, the same ring she had used to twist promises of forever. As we drove through Ikoyi, she held my hand gently. Her thumb brushed my knuckles in circles, the same rhythm she used when we first met at university. "You're quiet," she said softly. "Still in pain?" I smiled weakly, pretending. Pain doesn't go away easily. If only she knew the kind of pain I meant. When we reached the house, everything looked the same, too much the same. The flowers in the vase were fresh, the sheets newly changed, my slippers waiting by the door. Only one thing was different, the air. It was heavier, darker. It carried a silence that hummed like static electricity. She led me inside, her arm around my waist, the perfect image of a devoted wife. "You should rest," she said. "Let me make your favorite meal. Egusi soup with goat meat, the way you love it." I nodded. That would be nice. As she moved into the kitchen, I lowered myself onto the couch and stared at the photographs on the wall. Smiling faces, vacations, anniversaries, 2 decades of shared laughter. But now, each frame felt like evidence of a performance. How many of those smiles were real? How many times had I mistaken loyalty for love? The smell of sizzling pepper and oil filled the air, once comforting, now poisonous. I watched her hum softly as she cooked. She had no idea that the same phone she'd used to conspire my death was already in police custody. No idea that Inspector Uche had been working quietly, pulling call logs, tracing numbers, piecing together the web she had woven. My stomach turned. She didn't deserve another chance to poison anything, not even a meal. When she finally set the table, she did it with the grace of a woman used to playing hostess. She wore that same silk wrapper I had bought her from Dubai, her hair tied back neatly. "For you, my miracle," she said, sliding the plate toward me. "You have no idea how scared I was. The thought of losing you, it broke me." I wanted to laugh, to ask her if betrayal also broke her, but instead I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "You're a good actress, Ada." She froze for a moment, the spoon trembling in her hand. "What do you mean?" Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. 3 sharp knocks. Her eyes darted toward the door. Who could that be? I didn't answer. I simply leaned back in my chair and said quietly, "You should open it." She walked toward the door cautiously. When she pulled it open, uniformed officers flooded in. 3 men, weapons drawn. She stumbled back, her mouth hanging open. What is this? What's happening? And then behind them, Inspector Uche stepped in. "Good evening, madam," he said, his tone polite but edged with steel. "We'd like to ask you a few questions." Ada's gaze shot to me, wide, trembling, confused. "Obinna, what is this?" I didn't say a word. My silence was the answer. Uche held up a phone, sleek, black, familiar. Her phone. "I believe this belongs to you," he said, unlocking it with a thumbprint. He pressed play on a voice recording. Her voice filled the room, smooth, soft, deadly. "My husband is still alive. You haven't completed your own mission yet. If we must be together, he really needs to go." The sound bounced off the walls, wrapping the house in ice. For a moment, she didn't breathe. Then the fork slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor. Her face drained of color. "It's not what it sounds like," she whispered. I was scared. He threatened me." "Who?" I asked quietly, rising from my seat. "Who threatened you, Ada?" "The same man you planned my death with?" She shook her head violently. "No, you don't understand." I was trapped. I never meant for it to go that far. But her voice cracked at the wrong time, the way it always did when she lied. The officers moved closer, their boots thudding against the marble floor. "Madam Ada Nwokorie, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder and attempted homicide." She screamed then, a shrill, desperate sound. "Obinna, tell them I love you. You know I love you." I stepped forward slowly, my chest tightening. For a brief, fleeting second, I saw the woman I once loved, the girl who danced barefoot in the rain with me in Nasuka, who stayed up all night to help me study, who said she'd follow me anywhere. But that girl was gone. What stood before me was something else entirely, a stranger wearing her face. "I believed you once," I said quietly, "and it almost killed me." Tears streamed down her cheeks as the officers cuffed her hands. "Please," she sobbed, "it wasn't supposed to happen like this." "He said he would handle it. I just wanted him to scare you, I swear." "Who?" I demanded. "Who was it?" Her lips trembled. "Cheek." The name hit me like a punch. Cheek, my project manager, a man I had promoted, mentored, trusted, the same man who sat beside me in meetings, calling me chief, with a smile. The truth spilled out in fragments over the following days. Messages, bank transfers, hidden meetings. They had planned everything, from the route I took that night to the timing of the attack. The gunmen were supposed to make it look like a robbery gone wrong. Ada had promised Cheek a life together once I was gone. My estate, my business, my name. They found him hiding in a short-let apartment in Lekki, his car packed with cash and passports. When Uche told me, I didn't feel triumph, just an endless ache. Betrayal isn't loud. It echoes quietly, like footsteps in an empty house. When I finally returned home after her arrest, the silence felt heavier than before. Every photograph on the wall was a lie, every memory poisoned. I sat in my study that night, staring at the scar across my chest, the thin, pink reminder of survival. I ran my fingers along it and whispered, "You're still here." That's enough. The media later called it the Nwakorie conspiracy. Headlines, TV panels, social media outrage. Everyone wanted a quote from me, a statement, but I had nothing left to say. What words could possibly capture the feeling of waking from death to find your own wife had already planned your funeral? One evening, weeks later, I went back to the hospital, not as a patient, but as a man seeking closure. The nurse who had prayed for me during those long, sleepless nights recognized me immediately. "Ah, Chief," she said with a smile, "you're walking." "Praise God." "Yes," I said quietly, "praise God." She led me into the ICU ward, the same one where I had lain between worlds, the beeping machines, the faint antiseptic scent. Everything was the same. I stood there for a long time, listening to the hum of life, remembering how I had heard Ada's voice that night. It wasn't madness. It wasn't hallucination. It was revelation, the kind God gives to those who are still meant to live. Now, I live differently. I walk slower. I listen more. I trust less. The nights are still the hardest. Sometimes I wake in the dark, my heart racing, my mind replaying the gunshots, the crash, her whisper. That whisper never fades. It crawls beneath my skin, reminding me how close I came to dying at the hands of love, but I survived. That's the part she never planned for. She planned my death, but God planned my awakening. And so every dawn, when the light creeps through the curtains and touches my scar, I remind myself of one truth. Vengeance didn't save me. Truth did. And the truth, once it wakes, never sleeps again.